Hello, friends. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we are embarking on episode 3 of my series about creating memorable villain arcs. And the topic for this video is going to be allow the villain to evolve. Okay, how do you allow your TTRPG villain to evolve so that your villain can be dynamic and immersive? I'm going to give you 4 different tips that I have used to great effect that work really well in this video, and we're going to talk all about it. Now, if you want to watch video number 1, I'm going to put the button up here. And if you want to watch video number 2 in the series, there were 2 videos before, you can watch that one right here as well. And now we're embarking on video 3, allow the villain to evolve. Also, don't forget that I have a creating memorable villain arcs beyond the big bad formula guide available for download. Just go down the description, find the PDF that literally says creating memorable villain arcs, click on it. It's just on my Google Drive. You can grab that. There is no cost for it. It's just a free PDF and checklist that I use that I've put together for creating super memorable villains that your player characters will love. The first point here is to plan for character development. Okay, whenever you're creating a memorable villain that you want to be immersive, that you want to stick in your players' memories, in their minds, to be memorable, to be something that they will look back on and think, wow, that was an amazing villain arc. What you want to do is make sure that you plan for development. Don't just plan for, the villain to kind of show up, do a couple things, and then clash with the party, and it's either do or die or win or lose, right? We want to bring that villain back a couple different times. This creates the most memorable villain arcs when the party faces this villain more than once in a campaign, right? So let's say you're going from session 1 and you're just going to play a whole basically campaign, a whole adventure all the way to level 20. You're going to just go the whole distance. Maybe it's going to be a year, 2 years, 3 years of gameplay, depending on how fast you level up. There are going to be, hundreds of sessions in this amount of time. And when it comes to villains, you have lots of opportunity here to have them face off with this villain, in the 1 to 5 level range. You can do it again in the 5 to 10 level range. It just doesn't have to be the only villain they ever encounter, but to bring it back for an arc every quarter and then to line it up as the final boss is an ultimate way to kind of prepare for a big bad and then to prepare for that evolution, okay? To prepare for that character development, to plan for it. Now, mid-level villains, you can do this too. Have the mid-level villain show up in the first quarter, have it show up in the second quarter, and maybe the second quarter is the final arc. If so, have it show up a couple times in the first quarter and the second quarter, right? I find that if you kind of have the villain make contact with the party, maybe a brief skirmish, an exchange, a battle that is inconclusive about 4 to 5 times, this is going to build a lot of emotional connection. The players are really going to get to know that villain. This is going to create a connection with them. They're going to think, oh, it's this guy again, or this girl again, or it's this monster again. And this is going to create this funness, this fun familiarity with it. But this is also going to give you the opportunity to make this character grow over time. You can map out how the villain is going to change throughout the campaign when you plan it this way. And you can consider how life events may affect the villain's personality and strategies. I especially like this when they fight the group and they lose, but now they have a more in-depth knowledge of the player character strategies. When they come back next time, they're going to be prepared for the stuff that beat them the first time. I think this opens up the door to lots of villain development and makes the villains way more memorable in that sense. Now let's move on to point number 2. By the way, do you struggle to come up with plot arcs on the fly? If so, I have the perfect tool for you. It is called My Ultimate Plot Randomizer. It is a free ebook. When you join my email list, you can download this for free. You'll get the link in your first email. It contains 4 D100 tables that will let you roll random plot arcs whenever you need them. Roll the hook, the conflict, and the conclusion, and even add wild and wacky stuff all right there. Download this, print it out, add it to your tool collection, and you will never go without another plot arc again. I give this away for free to help you create awesome plot arcs just like I do. I use this in almost every single session, and you are not going to want to miss out on this, so make sure you grab this. Incorporate setbacks and failures, okay? Villains, just like heroes, are going to face challenges and setbacks. They're going to face defeat. They're going to face obstacles. They're going to face setbacks. They're going to face demotivating circumstances. They're going to need to adapt and become more formidable if they want to keep up, better yet, stay ahead of their enemies. In this case, the player characters may be their main enemies or just one set of many different types of enemies. In order for this villain to be memorable, truly memorable, and that's what this series is about, creating memorable villain arcs. We want to set this villain up to fail and then learn from those mistakes, come back bigger and badder and better and more formidable and more mean and more nasty with bigger abilities, better spells, more attacks, more lair actions, whatever it might be, right? But also a renewed sense of purpose and a renewed ferocity. When it faces these players again, it's going to be like double determined to take them out. And that added ferocity gives it an edge from a roleplay sense. It gives it a sense of like, this might even give it bonuses, like ferocity bonuses or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be better equipped next time because of the setbacks and failures. But in order for that to happen, you have to let your villain fail. And one of the best ways I found to let a villain fail is to let them fight the party and then lose. And maybe they come back from the dead somehow. Maybe a larger villain, resurrects them and says, hey, you fought them. I plan to fight them. You could be useful to me, or maybe they have a failsafe. Maybe they have a way to bring themselves back, like a lich situation. Or maybe when they fight the party and they lose, they do not die. They manage an escape before the final blow is dealt, empowering them to kind of like hide, heal themselves, rebuild, and come back bigger and better and stronger. But I love those setbacks and failures that villains go on, those arcs they go on when the party defeats them, but then they come back in either a few sessions or a few levels, whatever. And that leads us to point number 3, enable adaptation and learning in your villains. Now, I've already talked about this a little bit, but this bears repeating, okay? Responsive behavior. This is a term I want you to remember. Have the villain learn from interactions with the players. When they lose, they're going to learn tactics. When they fight the players, even if it's just a skirmish, they may be just testing the waters. They may not even be ready to dip both toes in. They might just want to see what the party does in their initial barrage. The villain may even send minions against the player characters at first, just to see what happens, just to see what kind of attacks they have, what kind of spells they have, right? A cunning villain will do this type of thing. And they're also going to change tactics. Villains are going to adapt and learn to better themselves and to come out on top. So the next time they fight your group, they're going to have different tactics. They may even try to lure the players into a false insecurity. The players may think, oh, we've seen this before. He's doing the exact same thing he did last time, but it might be a trap. It might be a trick. Now he's looking like he's going to, but he has a secret magic item up his sleeve or a whole different spell that once they kind of go in the same direction will just wreck them. This villain is a thinking, reasoning, problem solving, adapting, evolving entity. And when we treat it as such, this really builds immersion. It makes it so much more realistic and also so much more gritty and sensational. The villain's also going to form new alliances and develop new abilities. Okay. This is another thing that a lot of people discredit, is that villains have relationships a lot of times, maybe with other elements of the criminal underworld. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Maybe the NPCs or the PCs have enemies, and the villain is going to find their enemies and they're going to make alliances with them. Say, hey, listen, we both have the same enemy. Let's join forces. You have, this element, I have this element. Let's take them out. And sometimes the funnest thing is when the player characters get lured into these situations where they think they're fighting one villain, but then it turns out like 3 villains from their past have all gotten together and said, you know what, we're tired of you. We're going to use our combined abilities to get rid of you for good. And this can be a really fun way to kind of build challenge and build that like sense of impending doom and that fear that the players associate with that villain. This leads us to point number 4. Hey, real quick, are you tired of rolling the same old dungeon loot using these same old methods time after time, game after game? Well, I have a solution for you. This is how I roll all of my dungeon loot now. It's a book I created called the Ultimate Dungeon Loot Randomizer. This book contains 10 massive D100 tables full of awesome dungeon loot. Roll on a table for mundane items, slightly magical dungeon items, mundane weapons and armor, magical weapons and armor, individual pieces of treasure, magic scrolls, potions and elixirs, cursed items, forgotten wonders and otherworldly relics, and even full chests of treasure and loot. This book is now available on my Blurb bookstore in 3 different versions. There's a hardcover option, a softcover option that's more affordable, and a super affordable digital ebook option. It's even system agnostic, meaning you can use it with any fantasy TTRPG system, and you can just adapt it to the rule set you're using. Link is in the description. Don't miss out. Grab it today. Which is Evolve Relationships. Villains have relationships too, and these relationships can lead to alliances. They can also lead to betrayals. The relationships themselves will evolve over time. One of the funnest things is when you do a team up with villains, the relationship takes on a bit of a life of its own. You can run this through like little bitty cutscenes every once in a while or whatever. It can just show up when the villains show up. But maybe the first time they show up, both villains are very gung ho and then they fight the party, but then one of them doesn't perform as well as the other one. The next time they show up, they're arguing about who's going to get the last laugh or whatever, right? So it's like maybe they start to distrust each other. Maybe they start to like try to one up each other. Maybe it turns out that one of them comes to the party and says, hey, listen, I was teaming up with so-and-so to take you out, but they are getting really powerful. They're doing stuff that is crazy. Look, I'm evil, but even I don't want to do what they're doing. I'll tell you what, let's put a hold on our fight. Help me take them out. We can get rid of them, and then we can go back to having our war. But for now, let's call a peace. Let's call it truce, right? So like evolving relationships can be really fun. And then alliances and betrayals can be really fun. You can introduce new relationships or end old ones. Villains can get apprentices. They can get understudies who come in and they might become even more powerful, more crazy, more evil than their masters. They may even overthrow their masters, or they might reach out to the party saying, hey, we fought you a couple times, but I'm starting to have second thoughts about this evil life. I kind of think I might want to become good, right? So it can be a thing where maybe then the party gets like a spy or an enemy, a friend in the enemy's camp, etc. So these can be really fun ways to have relationships with villains and villain arcs evolve over time. So that's going to be it with this one. That's going to conclude my conversation on allowing the villain to evolve. And I hope that this was fun for you. I hope that this give you some good ideas for when you're running your own villains and how you can, over the long term, make them truly evolutionary, make them adaptable, make them the type of villains that your player characters will love to see again and again, as much as maybe they love to hate them because they are the villain. And with that, that's going to conclude this episode. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm here every single day creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. So I will see you awesome people on the next one.